There's Jeff Paterson.
We like to look at him too.
Speaking of beautiful British Columbia and his BC sweatshirt, Jeff Paterson, our Canucks reporter, the host of RinkWide Vancouver, was busy at it last night unpacking a Canucks victory in Music City. Jeff, how you doing?
I'm good. I was thinking to myself, we do this for a living, right? Our job is to watch the Canucks, to focus on the Canucks, and then talk about them every day. Most of our listeners and viewers also fall, I think, in that sort of hardcore-ish. They follow the Canucks pretty closely and know what's going on. But there is, and I sometimes have to remind myself, there is that sector out there that is casual, certainly in the regular season, right? End of the workday, they want to flip on the hockey game, and they want to be entertained. And through 14 games, have they not been entertained? There's just been a little bit of everything from this hockey club, and through it all adds up to 7-7. But just the way that they've arrived at some of these results with comeback wins and blown leads and buzzer beaters, and we know the injury story and underperformance from guys that you expect, overperformance from guys that maybe you didn't. These first 14 games have been full. We love storylines in this business. We've had storylines, and we've got a bunch of them again coming out of the win in Nashville.
Well, let's bring up your tweet then, Jeff, because I saw you piecemeal it out point by point on this Vancouver Canucks season through 14 games. Okay, Mike having a little trouble with the formatting here, but 7-7, 30 different players, 4-0 beyond regulation, just 3 regulation victories. 5-4 with 9 of the first 14 coming on the road, which is more than acceptable.
Yep.
Kiefer Sherwood has 9 goals. At one point, you're playing with 8 regulars out. Now we're down to 7. The penalty kill is abysmal at 69%. We had an OT buzzer beater last night. When do you see those? Lankinen is perfect in the shootout. He's the best ever in the shootout. They can't win a faceoff. And while there's tons of other... What singularly stands out to you from the long list that you tweeted today, Jeff, about this Canucks season through 14?
That they have managed to patchwork the 7 victories and 5 different game-winning goal scorers, because really a team that kills penalties at sub 70% has no business winning 7 of its first 14 games. And we have all lived through this recently since the pandemic, where that kind of penalty killing sunk the Canucks, not just on a nightly basis, but really dragged their season into a gutter. So I see that. I see the face-off issue. I still think of the spotty performance of Elias Paterson, and not just EP40, but it was nice to see Brock Besser break out with a big night, and Jake DeBrusk has underperformed, and obviously missing Quinn Hughes the way that they have. I commend the guys that have thrown on that uniform on a nightly basis to get to this point. What I think we've seen from the Canucks through 14 games, guys, is that they have established a credible floor of what's possible with spread scoring, with good goaltending most nights, and obviously the record beyond regulation time. That's allowed them to win 7 of their first 14. What I don't know, and there's no way of knowing given all the injuries, but even when they get guys back, I still don't know the ceiling for this group. And 500 after 14 games, that's fine. Look at the Pacific Division. It's a mess right now. So they're within an arm's length of the division lead, which is wild to think of all those storylines. And here they are hanging with everybody else in the Pacific Division. But just the fact of the matter, hockey math, they're going to need 95 or 96 points. That is 14 games above 500. Does this team, when it's at its best, does it have a couple of 8-2 runs over 10-game stretches? And that I just don't know, and I'm not sure I feel comfortable believing that that's the ceiling for this group. And yet, hockey math again tells you that you're going to have a kind of, you can get to 500 after 20 games. All you've done is burned off 20 games, and then you still have to be, 12, 13, 14 games above 500 rest of the way. So can they get on one of those absolutely red-hot streaks? I mean, I guess if that Trudemko goes lights out, and if Quinn Hughes has, a stretch there where he is one of the best players in the National Hockey League. But that's kind of what they're up against. Again, 7-7, given all the challenges, pretty impressive. I'm not sure about this group and whether it has a couple of 8-2 runs over the course of the rest of the season.
Great that they live in a house without a basement. It's built on a concrete slab. high floor.
It's like a Florida house. They don't have basements.
But it might have 7-foot ceilings. Might be a post and beam with 7-foot ceilings where you have to duck everywhere.
Some of those low-laying areas too silty.
Yeah,
can't have a basement.
Rancher, no.
It's a rancher for sure. The question is how high are the ceilings?
Does it have one of those Vancouver special balconies though in the front?
The return of Conor Garland would certainly
those
help.
Balconies.
I don't know what you mean.
You don't know a Vancouver special?
No. Well, yes.
You're so into real estate, you don't know the Vancouver special?
Just the basic house in Marpole, that sort of area.
But with the balcony, with the ugly balcony off the sliding doors out front on the second floor.
Really?
Jeff, you know what I'm talking about here?
What you're talking about.
I do. And so the Canucks are going to have to, they're going to have to shop around and find some.
That might be
contractors
luxurious for them. I don't know.
Yeah, but I think the other part of this Vancouver special is with the real estate market the way it is. We see some people build up, right? They want to stay in their house. They want to add a second story.
Right.
That's, I think, who the Vancouver Canucks are going to have to be if they are going to hang with the big boys and ultimately be above the playoff bar.
Well, with cap space, the zoning is difficult right now to stay with the real estate theme here. Conor Garland coming back would obviously help this team immensely, and so would Teddy Bluger. And both those guys were name-checked by Adam Foote before the game yesterday. How much of an impact does that make immediately when those two guys come back? And is it immediate? Like when do you think we'll see the whites of their eyes?
Yeah, I think the Canucks are hopeful that Conor Garland can play against the Blackhawks on Wednesday. I wonder with 2 extra days after that, maybe you look and you say back-to-backs on the weekend. Maybe that's more realistic for him. But they will welcome him back at 5-on-5 on the power play, and certainly he had developed into a primary penalty killer for them, and they can use any help that they can get right now while shorthanded. Bluger's still a bit of a mystery to me, not even certain what the injury is other than lower body, and so I don't know the full extent. I did hear Adam Foote say that he'd be the next guy after Garland, but I don't know if that means he's right behind Garland or if that means there could be a lag in terms of his return. So when Garland gets back, I think there's a spot waiting for him in the top 6 here. Lucas Reichel certainly has not grasped the opportunity as the 2C. What they do with Reichel ultimately, we'll wait and find out there. But as the second-line center, I think even after 6 games, it's pretty clear that this is not the answer. Again, no problem with the Canucks rolling the dice and paying a 4th-round pick, but he's not the answer. So the hunt has to continue to beef up the middle of the ice for the Vancouver Canucks. So, is it as simple as plugging Garland in? But then somebody's got to play center on that second line. And so, do we see them just kind of ride with Reichel, even though there's been absolutely no bottom line whatsoever? Big revenge game for him against the Blackhawks on Wednesday. And again, if I had a better sense of Teddy Bluger coming back, that would be fine. But do we want to live in a world where Teddy Bluger is the second line center for the Vancouver Canucks, even for a short span here? But then if it's not him, then it's Ratu or Max Sasson getting bumped up. And again, all roads lead back to this idea that they weren't good enough down the middle to begin with, and they're nowhere close as we sit here, despite the 7-7 record.
How many good games has Evander Kane played, would you say? Last night was clearly one. How many of the 14 would you say, Kane was a good contributor tonight?
Yeah, maybe 4 of 14. Again, there have been some plays. Like I think of against the Oilers, winning the puck race and spinning and setting up Besser for the goal in the first period there was a really nice play. Set up Lekermacki with a nice pass on opening night against Calgary. The fact that I can pull a couple of those off the top of my head, and he only has the 5 assists. Again, it's been an underwhelming on the score sheet performance. He got absolutely jobbed, and I was glad to hear Adam Foote call out the officiating after the game.
Yes.
Talk about a reputation penalty. In a 1-goal game where momentum is clearly on the Predators' side, you could feel them coming with a late push. They didn't need help from the officials there. They may have been able to get the equalizer just the way the game was going. And Evander Kane's stick stays, in my mind, below his waist, or certainly like below his shoulder pads. I don't know how they got high sticking out of that. And so I was glad to hear Adam Foote stick up for the player and for his team. I don't know if he'll hear from the league on that, because the league doesn't take a shine to coaches calling out officials. But I like the fact that Foote even went the extra mile. Said it wasn't a penalty on Kane. It was diving. Like he was trying to, after the fact, he was trying to make the call on the behalf of the officials to help them for the next time. But he hasn't lit the city or this team on fire by any stretch of the imagination, but there have been some moments. He was overdue to score. He had the one called back the other night, so it was nice to see him finally get a couple that counted for the Canucks, and turned out to be part of a winning cause.
Yeah, when people express concern about the penalties that Kane takes, boy, and the Stanley Cup final, there were several examples of this. A lot of them, Jeff, you're spot on, are reputational penalties. Like they're non-penalties that somehow get called on Evander Kane, and it appears it's more than just the Gregory Campbell effect that extends to the regular season as well. I'm with you on foot. I always appreciate a coach's honesty. Of course, this was the pathway that Rick Tocchet didn't want to go down ever, guys. Remember, he's a good official. He's a good official. Anytime there was a officiating controversy for him to address in the postgame, I'm worried about calls going against the Canucks tomorrow because Foote was so candid. And we know that's a thing as well with NHL officials.
I don't know. For one guy that now has a reputation for taking penalties, I don't mind a guy going to bat for one guy. I think blanket.
Well, he's been drawing penalties too.
Right.
Like that's the other thing is at least the officials on the other end of the ice are giving him a fair shake with regards to.
But the blanket, hey, the officials suck in this league, not smart. But hey, guys, not everything Evander Kane does is a penalty. I don't mind that. I think that's okay.
Yeah, I thought it was a fairly soft sell in that regard, and he was more sticking up for his own player, I thought, than really like going at or after the referees there. But we know it's a brotherhood of stripes, and we have seen certainly in the past that they don't have a short memory. I will say this, that the Vancouver Canucks, forget the penalty killing percentage if you can, and at 69.4%, it's hard to put that aside. They're taking way too many penalties. Now, ones like that one get added to the list, but there are only 4 teams in the league that have taken more minor penalties than the Vancouver Canucks, or have been shorthanded more than the Canucks have. So they've given up the most power play goals against, tied with Ottawa at 15. They've got some company there with Travis and Nolan Baumgartner, who are having their old problems in the nation's capital. So, you're number 1 in the league in giving up power play goals, but you're this short-staffed group right now, and they don't seem to be learning from their problems here. Like the best way to kill penalties is to stay out of the box entirely. And the penalty kill has become a real concern, that now it's more power play goals given up than games played. And that's just a genuine, generally that's a really difficult formula to overcome. Like this team isn't good enough to be spotting opponents a goal on the power play every single night out, and yet somehow through it all they've been able to tread water.
What did we make of Paterson last night? I promise to ask you that virtually every time we do a hit after a game, Jeff.
I thought he was okay. Didn't love the play or the back check on the opening goal, but he had some company there. I agreed with Adam Foote that I thought his night got better as it went along. There have been some nights already this season where he's played really well and hasn't factored in the scoring. I think to collect points at a acceptable pace, there have to be some nights like last night where he wasn't the best player on the ice. He wasn't one of the 3 stars, and yet he gets an assist on the game-winning goal. He has 2 points on the night, and so impossible to look there and say, hey, this guy didn't contribute, was a total non-factor. But again, against the Nashville team that's not very good without Roman Josi, you keep waiting for the big night where he is hands down the best player on the ice. I didn't think that was necessarily the case, but my goodness, guys, that overtime winner, and there was so much in that one play with 10 seconds remaining on the clock. Like, did you notice Philip Forsberg just blowing the zone and looking for the home run stretch pass? And if that didn't materialize, I think there was also a defensive element on the part of the Preds where if Forsberg busts out to center ice like a wide receiver, he takes Quinn Hughes with him. And the Predators are probably thinking, neutralize the Canucks' most dangerous player, and we'll take our chances with 10 seconds left that what can happen in a 2-on-2 battle. The Canucks practice 2-on-2 battles down low in the corner almost every time they step onto the practice sheet. So as I watched that play unfold, I was thinking, I have seen them work on this kind of stuff so often. And as the puck went to the corner, I don't know about you guys, I just thought, all right,
game over.
They're going to jam it up. Yeah, they're going to jam it up and onto the shootout, and they'll take their chances there. So a good reminder to play to the final buzzer. Brock Besser wins his battle. Elias Paterson makes the nice stick poke check that gets it onto the stick there. And Besser again with the backhand. We've seen a couple of those from him already this season. Tucks it home. And then the celebration on the sideboards. Besser, Paterson's the first guy to him, and Quinn Hughes, who was up ice, comes racing in. And it reminded me, remember Hughes' debut that went to overtime against Los Angeles Kings? And Shorty had the line about, you're looking at the future of the Vancouver Canucks. And the three of them celebrating. They were the first three. They were the three that were on the ice, and just kind of took me back in time. And the other part there is that Brock Besser hadn't scored an overtime goal, didn't score a single overtime goal last year, even though the club went to overtime, I think, 24 times. He probably missed a few with some injuries, but he hadn't scored an overtime goal since February of 2024. So coming up on 2 full years since Brock had deposited a puck in overtime. You think of wide spaces and back and forth and all that kind of stuff. That doesn't necessarily suit Brock Besser, but this new approach for the Vancouver Canucks to overtime, slowing it down, holding on to pucks, possession. What they did last year clearly didn't work for them. And so, as we all kind of try to figure out Adam Foote and some of his strategies, it does seem like they're trying to play a patient game in overtime, not to turn pucks over, not to trade chances. And right now, pretty hard to argue with the results with 2 wins in overtime and 2 others in a shootout.
Same question on Quinn Hughes.
Yeah, not as sexy, but...
Same question on Quinn Hughes. What do you think of his plays? He jumps back almost 25 minutes. He's on the ice for 3 goals, but he's 3 goals for, but doesn't get a point, but clearly has an effect on the game.
Yeah, games are far more entertaining whenever he's in the lineup, so I was happy to see him get in there. He got a skate in on Sunday, and he looked ready to go. And for a guy that had missed a week with the groin issue, there were some that I think felt the Canucks were rushing him. Why would they fly their captain all the way to Nashville just to play a game when the next one was at home? But he knows the situation that they're in. They need healthy bodies, and he's one of the best, if not the best, that they've got. So when he got the green light, he was going to get back in there. Again, didn't love the play on that first one where he pinches and doesn't win the battle and then kind of saunters back defensively as Forsberg gets a couple of cracks at it. But like his team, gained some traction as the night went on the 6-on-5, the second Kane goal. Like that looked like vintage Quinn Hughes just dealing at the top, putting the Predators in the spin cycle and ultimately creating space that allowed him to get the puck down low. And it is kind of funny, guys. And I think this is important. They went 2-2 without Quinn Hughes. I think it was important that they proved to themselves that they could win some games without the captain. But they've won twice in overtime now, and he hasn't figured in either of the goals. The one against the Oilers, he wasn't in the lineup. And last night, he's on the ice, but he's out in the neutral zone. Again, you've heard me say, I think they defer to him too much, and I know he's the best player. But for the Canucks to recognize that it doesn't always have to be Quinn doing the heavy lifting in every situation is just a reminder that there are other talented players on this team, and sometimes they're going to have to go it alone. And so they have found a way. It is wild, really, when you think of their troubles in overtime last year with one of the most dynamic skaters in hockey, and it doesn't equate to automatic victories. So he's going to play. He's going to play a lot. You know that. But I just thought it's interesting that they're 2-0 in games decided in OT, and he hasn't been a factor in either one of the goals. And I say that as a compliment to the other guys rather than somehow pointing a finger at Quinn and saying, oh, he shouldn't. Of course he should be on the ice. But it's just that having him on the ice doesn't automatically lead to the success that you think it might.
We haven't asked him the Redwoods golf course poll question yet. So let's end on that. Tom Willander. Is he in the NHL to stay, Jeff? I mean, he only plays 11 minutes last night, but, fabulous play and assist for his first NHL point. He did play 16 minutes in Minnesota. So you tell me, Willander, here to stay?
Yeah, a couple of things on the ice time. One is Quinn was back, and I know it's a lefty-righty, but Quinn takes up all the oxygen, you know that, and so it's just going to be a trickle-down effect there. Tight game in the third period and trying to lock down a lead, and then ultimately a couple of penalties that they had to kill. Villander's not a penalty killer, so not surprised there. He ultimately had one shift over the final 10 minutes of the third period, but in his limited moments, I liked a lot about the play that led to his first NHL point in the building, in which he was drafted a couple of years ago. Open ice, uses his God-given gift of skating, recognized that there was an opportunity to enter the zone with control of the puck. He got a fortunate bounce, sort of through traffic and onto the stick of Brock Besser, but still, I mean, he draws traffic to him. It creates space in the middle of the ice, and ultimately Besser doesn't miss from that spot. So is he here to say? I'm going to say yes, that it feels like he has moved ahead of Victor Mancini, and that's unfortunate because the old adage in sports, but you don't lose your spot due to injury. But with all of these guys battling, right now, it just feels like he's able to give them competent, capable minutes, and then the fact that he got in over P.O. Joseph, who 200 games in the NHL, a guy that has shown he can play the left and the right side. There was a decision to make there. I don't know if it was a difficult one, but after the games in St. Louis and Minnesota, I think the Canucks coaching staff wanted to stick with Willander, and that meant that P.O. Joseph was the odd man out. So I think there is some dust to settle down around the 6, 7, 8 slots on the depth chart, if and when everybody's healthy at the same time. But in the here and now, I think Tom Willander is part of their top 6. And look, he looked good. I thought DPD on the 4-3 goal, he really struggled there with tried to clear it into traffic and then let Bunting get to the front of the net and get inside position on him. So it wasn't a banner night for one of the other young defenders, but Tom Willander at the end of the night on the ice for 1 goal, 4 and none against. And as a defender, your job is to keep the puck out of your own net. So I think it was another big step in the right direction for the former first rounder.
Vancouver Specials are front-gabled 2-story boxy houses built on grade with low-pitch roofs. They contain shallow balconies on the second floor, accessed by sliding glass doors. The front door is typically set to the side of the house, which allows for main living quarters on the upper floor. Secondary suites on the bottom. Ground-level facades, Blake, brick or stone, stucco at the higher levels.
Okay, I got you. I got this one. Yeah.
That stucco is so ugly, but the rest of it, good stuff. We have our own Vancouver Special. Jeff Paterson, talk to you.
We do.
All right, guys. Thanks.